Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. It's October 16th. It's John Jay here talking about aceofcoins.club and aceofcoins.com. Aceofcoins.com is a way to reach me. I have a consulting program. It's an annual consulting program. You'll see it at aceofcoins.com. I still use a PDF order form, so don't be scared about that. I like it because it's low tech. I think it's more secure than electronic, but I could be wrong. We're going to talk a little bit about that tonight, and maybe we can have some countermeasures for all the surveillance. At aceofcoins.club, I have video series where I'm teaching people. So a lot of the subjects I cover here, I go into more detail on aceofcoins.club. And right now we have new video modules I'm publishing. So that way we're looking at 3 to 5 videos talking about one specific thing that people need to know. That way it's much easier and less money if you just subscribe to one of those, learn a thing. And if you subscribe to one of those and you don't feel like it's all there, let me know, and I can even produce a whole new segment and add to that series because there might be that other people have the same question. So let me know what you're working on there. So with that, I want to get into this evening. Now, today, I don't know if you guys were on the call today. I did a call with VJ, Strategic Life. He and I have a show called Strategic Life. We talk about entrepreneurship and things like this, things like we're talking about too. And so this evening, I want to talk about the same thing. And I didn't do this on VJ's call, but I'm going to do this tonight. I'm going to show you another example of how to use AI to do something that I'm going to give you some little detail on. So as we know, pretty much today we're being faced with giving up our biometric data just to continue to live in modern society. We're not doing anything special. We're just still going to the grocery store, and now we're under video surveillance. And it's not so much that someone is looking at us and making a record of our habits for their own security purposes. This data is being collected, harvested, and sold, and all kinds of whatever. I mean, to a point where I would even imagine that some of the data that's being collected is enough to pay for many of the consumer goods we're actually paying for or buying. So I seriously doubt anytime in the near future we're going to get compensation for all this data that's being collected. However, that's why I'm doing this call, because I'm thinking this data, you can't avoid it. Okay. It's so pervasive being collected. Biographical data, which is the old type information. This is your name, address, SSN, date of birth, that sort of thing. Okay. That's your biographical data. Okay. Your physical dimensions, things like that, your gender. This is biographical, but biometric is a bit more sinister because that's like being fingerprinted, but even on a more effective scale. It doesn't serve us, it serves somebody else. And so I just wanted to uh, get into, I appreciate that, Greg. I just want to get into that and how we could just, instead of, hey there, Moko, instead of complaining all the time, which I'll be the first to complain. I like to avoid downloading the app. Every time I hear someone say download the app, I want to barf. And so I'll tell them that I'm not downloading your app. I'm not using a QR code to read the menu at this restaurant. I want a menu. So I'm that guy. So, but at some point, we're not going to be able to reject it, I think. And so it's just like my discussion last week and the week before. If somebody wants my data, I look at it like this. I'm giving you something that's very valuable. I don't want to give it to you. But if you'll deny me services and just sell them to the next guy who's willing to give it, so basically everybody's outvoting you, right? So I'll give it to you, but I'm going to do it with terms, and you don't have a choice. If you want my data and I don't have a choice to give it to you, well, then you're going to accept it with terms. And so therefore, I'm giving it to you on fire. It's on fire because I'm giving you data that's valuable, and you're going to have to take care of it. And if you suffer a data breach, you owe me. And the moment I give it to you is a data breach anyways, but I'm also going to impose terms on the use, collection, and storage of my data, just like I would for intellectual property under a license agreement. And we can do this under the Uniform Commercial Code. I believe it's section 9-203. It's like the last volume of the UCC. I probably am wrong on the citation there, but basically it says that if another party benefits from something of value that you've conveyed, then he agrees to a security, there's a security agreement. And so you can perfect your interest in a security agreement or not. You can just ignore it. And there's no perfection of your security interest in the property. But what I'm going to show you tonight is why you should and how you can do it. Perfect your security interest in property. So let's talk about the property. What I care about is, that first of all, let me give you the example of the Ring camera. Okay, so my neighbor across the street from me has a Ring camera, and like I explained in a few months ago on a call talking about the Ring camera and how to deal with this, your neighbor and all this, he's video recording me. Now, it's not like he's sitting on his porch and he sees me on my porch and waves and that's the end of it. No, it's a video record of me permanently, and it's stored forever, I guess, to whomever, for whoever wants to see it. Maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. I don't think I like it because maybe I don't want to be filmed. Maybe you guys don't want to be filmed. But here's the thing. That data can never be secured. As you know, electronic data is always subject to a data breach, and it's inevitable. I just saw a clip on a YouTube thumbnail today talking about the Social Security database being breached again. I think they do this to get us to accept new technology. But in any case, imagine if somebody gets a hold of that data. It could be an employee of the Ring camera people. It could be someone who's accessed the Ring camera data either at the point of the production of the video image or from Ring camera itself, from its servers. There's all kinds of openings to do this, right? So imagine if someone accessed this data, not from like today, but let's say from 3 months ago for a period of, let's say, 6 weeks, to try to gauge what my habits are. He could go back that far in time and look what my habits were for 6 weeks ago. Now, it doesn't serve him to do that if he's going to rob my house, right? He wants to see like what happened in the last 6 weeks starting today. So what if he was able to get this data, right? My house is burglarized. Let's say this never happened. No one got that data from Ring Central, from my neighbor's camera. No one ever got that data. But because my neighbor is recording that, my presence at my house, because he's recording that, he would be a suspect in the burglary, would he not? And if he's not, maybe he's a witness because his Ring camera is on his patio. And so what I would end up doing is send him a notice in the mail saying, you have an option. You can reorient your camera, right, as we discussed before, or you can be liable as a witness or suspect if my house is ever burglarized. That's my first suspect when I call the police, and I'm going to say, well, my neighbor's been video recording my house for, months, years. So that's one way to deal with it. The other way is, and this is not what I'm promoting tonight, but just I like to talk about this. Imagine if you had a video camera on a tripod that's quite obvious, the old school tripod, a big video camera. I'm not talking about your phone. I'm talking about like a camcorder as they call it. Like, I don't know if we still make those, but imagine if we just mount that in your front yard and point it right at your neighbor's front door. What would he think of that? It doesn't occur to him. He would probably come over and knock on your door and say, hey, are you video recording me? And I'd say, oh, yeah. And that would start the conversation. So I'm not saying you guys should do that, but it might be interesting, to point out that it's such an invasion. It really is, because when I open my windows, my blinds, I'm thinking if it's dark enough outside and it's light enough inside, there's a video record of me in my house. In my house. And it's just the same. I have still the same level of privacy expectation on the curtilage of my house, which is the perimeter of my house on the outside, maybe within about 5 feet or so. Maybe it's more, something like that. So this is my behavioral data. I'm going to call this biometric data. Also my face, right? My eyes, my eyeball, all the different features, the way I talk, my frequency of my voice, the patterns, the mannerisms I use, the way I walk, which is called the gait, tissue samples, things of this nature. Okay, this is all your biometric data. We've already been using our biometric data for the driver's licenses. Think about it, for like 100 years, which is really interesting because you're just paying a tax to use the roadways, right? You're paying a tax, but you have to give up your biometric data in order to pay the tax. Or we've allowed them to do that, which that's quite interesting, isn't it? When do we ever give up biometric data to pay a tax? What if I just paid the tax and I got a receipt? Like, good old fashioned state seal on a piece of paper, right? Or something. And then I keep it with my car insurance and if I'm stopped by the police and I have registration, like the receipt is my registration on the back of the car, right? And I paid the license fee to get permission to use the roadways to drive a motor vehicle, as they call it. And and the police stopped me and he's asked me for my license, and I would just show him the receipt that I paid the tax within the last year. It doesn't have to have my name on there, or it could, but he just needs to see that the driver is holding the receipt for the payment of the tax. But no, we don't do that. We have biometric data on our driver's license, and that's been just fine for everybody. But unlike in the past, this data is more accessible. Now, I'll give you, so I'm going to show you the example I'm going to show you tonight is, this is what really got me excited, because there's two things. One is the use of your smart meter to determine when you're using appliances and which appliances they are, what your habits are. This is crazy because every appliance has a signature, the way it starts, the way it runs, and it's an electronic signature that can be parsed out of the noise of your entire household through the smart meter. And this data can be accessed, right now it can be accessed without a court order. It can be accessed by subpoena, which doesn't require a judge to look at it, right? You just go to the clerk of the court and get something stamped, and you serve it on the utility company. The utility company goes, yeah, or you could probably being done electronically now. And who the utility company is not going to defend you. It's not going to file a motion to quash the subpoena. It's just going to give up the data, you know. And it doesn't have to be for a criminal investigation. It just could be just because somebody wanted it. I'm curious to know if we could even do that to ourselves. Like, can a private citizen get a subpoena issued against his neighbor's utilities, electronic, meter data? I wonder. So just a weird question there. But so your smart meter is giving up a lot of data. It's almost like you don't have walls on your house. It's almost like you don't have walls. And just recently, a court ruled, I think it was the Supreme Court or the appeals court, and I forget what jurisdiction, maybe it was Georgia, ruled that the police using a thermal imager on your house to look into your house. I mean, the police can look into your house and see where you're walking and what you're doing. They can look right through your walls because of the heat of your body. And so the police can still do it, and maybe they'll still do it, but they cannot use that as evidence against you because it's an unreasonable search and seizure, but they could still do it. So just be aware of this, okay? There's countermeasures you can take. I'm not talking about that tonight, but the one that really got my attention was this Flock Safety company, Flock Group. Okay, and I'm going to go over that in a second. But Flock has this technology that's video surveillance, and it connects everything. So you have it in traffic, you have it on private property, retail places, you have apartment complexes, and places where you're parking your vehicle when you're going throughout town or wherever. These Flock cameras, if enough businesses have them and they're using them, they're probably selling the data. That's why they would do it. They're not doing it for security. And by the way, there's no such thing as a security camera. Whenever you hear that word, you need to correct the person saying security camera, because cameras don't provide security. Because if they did, then we would just install cameras and have no crime at all, right? It's not security, it's surveillance. So correct people, say it's not. It can't provide it. The crimes are still being committed. I mean, you guys can see on YouTube all these stupid people, robbing the Amazon shipping, and they're going right into the retailers and raiding the retailers on camera, So, but anyway, so Flock Safety has got this product, and I'm going to show you right now what I did just for demonstration here. So it leads me into what we're going to talk about, which is how to identify the data that's important to us as property, how to describe it as property, and then put a lien on it in the same way you would create a licensing agreement for software you've written, or a song you wrote, or a poem, or some book you've written, and you want someone else to publish it for you. You would be the licensor, someone else using it would be the licensee. We do this all day long with software, okay? With our phones and things, we download software all the time, and it's a software license. It's always a software license. We can do the same legal scenario with the collection, storage, and use of our identifying information, or I like to call it our likeness, which is private property, okay? And so let me just do a screen share here. I think I isolated this, and I'll just show you what I came up with on Flock. I don't know why they call it Flock. Who knows why they came up with these names?
It's an acronym.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah, I got some spray I put on my tag, and you can't read my tag.
Oh, that's probably more useful now than preventing the police from seeing it. I don't mind if the police see it, but I don't want these cameras. So if the cameras can't see it, that's all the better.
Right.
And then if the police want to make a stink about it, then maybe the argument should be, look, you need to police the people that have me under surveillance. I don't want this. I have a right to privacy, and you're supposed to be policing that. not policing me. So you're failing there. So yeah, I mean, that would be a justification. So, all right, let's see, I'll try to do a share. Ah, here we go. So, and I like showing you how to do this because, my purpose here is to show you how to do it. I'm not an attorney as much as I like making money for doing this. And sure, if you want me to do something special, I can do it for you. But I want to show you how I'm doing this so you'll have it for yourself. So I just went and opened up a new chat with Chat GPT, okay? And I just asked it this question. Here's my prompt. I just asked it some generic question, right? And it goes into this whole thing about what flock safety is. Okay. This might get you angry if you read some of this stuff.
Hmm.
Automated license plate readers, uh, gunshot audio detection. That's interesting, right? It can track the location and origin of gunshots. That's quite interesting. So it's
Hmm.
pretty interesting technology. Data and software platform, watch list, cross-checked against hot lists. See, that's the thing. So here's what I'm going to just get to the bottom line here on Flock is this technology from Flock allows the user to identify your vehicle by tag number and then simultaneously get into the DMV database and find out who the owner is. And then with that information from other databases can grab all kinds of biometric biological data on yourself, finding out where you live. And not only that, but establish a database which is not new technology, but it's a relational database, a relations database about who you go to visit, maybe where you drive every day, who your boss is, who your employer is, who your friends are. I don't know if this is a good thing to be permanent data in the cloud somewhere. I don't like that, but this is what this software is being used for. And then see, as of 2025, Clock claims to operate in thousands of communities, HOAs, businesses, okay, retails, retailers. So here, look, people are investing in Flock. Who's investing in Flock? You should check it out. So this is what it's telling you what it can do. License plate capture and matching, vehicle fingerprinting. So like, for example, let's say you have like some collision in the back bumper, right? This becomes data that's associated with this make and model of your car and your tag. So that way, even if your tag is concealed, your car can still be identified by these characteristics that might be unique, unless it's brand new, right? And it looks just like 12 others in your neighborhood. So, you almost can't avoid this identifying process by concealing your tag, although I would still do it, you know. So anyways, alerting and integration. So detecting stolen vehicles, of course, this is good old fashioned police work. We don't need total surveillance of everything. That's overkill. You know, that'd be like saying we want to eliminate crime. So everybody stay in your home and we'll just bring you food. It's ridiculous. You can't live that way. So anyways, here's where, I believe the AI probably grabbed some data off the internet. And of course, we're talking about mass surveillance, civil liberties like ACLUs, probably get involved in things like this, data retention, right? Captured data, how long is it stored? Could be for months, years. Here's what I'm telling you guys. We're going to get into this in a minute. Let's put terms on the storage use and a collection of our data. So this is based upon a statute or a policy or an agreement. If you're using the security agreement, like I'm going to show you, you can decide what those terms are. These terms will be in a perfected security interest. This will be superior, have a priority claim than a statute and any other policy or agreement, including the data retention policy of the other party. Like Google, for example, okay? It's got a privacy statement, a privacy policy. You could impose new terms on your data, not its policy, but your data with a security agreement. You can write the law on it. I suggest we do this. And so the way this looks is we should all have each of us like 40 or 50 of these liens filed against so many, organizations, companies, whatever. And so of course there's going to be a lack of transparency, you know. And then, of course, potential for misuse. And this is what we're talking about. You guys can just imagine. I just gave you an example, right? My nice neighbor has a Ring camera, and I'm saying he might be a witness in a crime of burglary in my house, for example, or he might be a suspect. So think about it. So we go on and on and on. So I'm just getting, so what I'm doing here by this prompt, so this one prompt gave me all this information, okay? So this is how I'm staging the chat, the AI session, so that I can go on to some other thing. And you're going to see where I'm using this one little line here to create all this information. Now my AI has this information. I'm not going to go into it all. And then I come up with this. All right. So I'm again informing the AI. The collection of the data specifically identifies me. This is important. It includes my location, travel habits, identifying information, my biometric data, such as when patronizing a retail business. So I'm giving it this information here because I wanted to start creating terms of an agreement. So I'm showing you how to use the AI to create a security agreement. Now, it's not going to be as good as the one I wrote. That's my bias, but it's pretty dang good. All right, I'm going to show you. Such as anyway, so I may set terms. I'm telling the AI, I can put terms on the use of my data. Of course I can. Because I can, first of all, I could choose not to give up my data, couldn't I? Which in many cases I'm probably not going to do because I still want to go around and buy groceries, right? By myself. I don't want to hire somebody to do it. So I can therefore set terms, right? Because I decide if my data is going to get collected or whatever. And so I'm telling the AI that I can do this. And so, and I'm telling the AI, giving the AI an analogy, right? So it can understand. And so then I asked the AI, what would this look like if I were to put terms on the collection of my data? And it says, okay, you have good line of reasoning. And then it says it's restating the concept here, and it's understanding, it's telling me that it understands me. So when I'm reading this, I'm going, okay, this thing understands me after 2 prompts. Okay. So it's going to go into the definition of all the property and the licensing and all this stuff. In fact, it might even give me some case law in here or something, which I haven't verified, by the way. It doesn't matter. So anyways, here's what happened. So this thing kind of wrote like an agreement. See here? Personal data is what's it calling? It's calling itself. I call it your likeness or identifying information, but it's the same. So it's pretty good. This one is a pretty good agreement. So then uh, I move into something. It's actually telling me how I could implement this practically. So we have an agreement and it's saying you could just display this agreement. You could hand it to somebody. This is not practical, but anyways, it's telling me how I could use it. Well, I'm going to show you the next prompt because I'm going to suggest that it be recorded as like a mortgage. Okay. So it goes through some pretty good ideas. And this is telling me, like, if you guys want to know some of this stuff, hey, John, where are you getting this stuff from? Check it out. Restatement of torts. You're going to find a lot of case law on privacy, okay, and property rights. Then we get into Article 9 of the UCC because I'm talking about creating an agreement, like for example with Google, where I don't need Google to affirmatively sit there with its attorneys and sign a piece of paper. The mere fact that it acquired this property and is going to benefit from the property, no matter if it makes money or not, it establishes an agreement as long as I'm going to express that agreement, the terms of it. And in this case, I'm going to show you, we're going to record a security agreement, which becomes binding on the debtor. All right. So this, by the way, Illinois has some pretty good laws if you want to check it out. And this too, Illinois and California. Now, if you take these 2 acts from these 2 different states and you run it through the AI, you can ask it some, pretty good questions. So here's my third prompt. I think you have a good understanding. I'm telling the AI this. What about using the security agreement to preserve my rights that are guaranteed by law and and then record the agreement in the county and state in which I reside, where the collector of the data is the debtor and I'm the creditor. So I'm asking it leading questions, right? And he goes, okay, yeah, perfecting a property right. The AI understands what is perfecting a property right. And then here's the legal theory, and it gives me some legal foundation citations or whatever. I think there's maybe some case law in here. But anyways, let's see if it does an agreement. So I had it, here we go. Okay, so you see here, it's giving me some case law, Fourth Amendment, all that jazz. So here's the pros and cons of it. Now, it's talking about there's a question of whether or not the debtor agrees to these terms, right? So I need to educate the AI one more time. So I think that was my 4th prompt, maybe. the uniform commercial code, I'm telling the AI, the UCC provides that consent to these terms is established at the moment the collector of the data benefits from the collection of the data or is able to collect it. So of course, it says, yes, you're right, of course. And then it goes in and says, I'll tell you where that authority is right here. So it's in titles 1 and 2, apparently, of the UCC. And I believe, yeah, here it is, 9-203, okay? And I believe in my example of the UCC, I'm sorry, the security agreement, I do cite this section in here at the very end. Now, I'm not showing you my security agreement. I think I showed you part of it or, a while back, but I don't need to show you. I want to show you how to make your own. So the important thing here is that you're gonna define the property that you're gonna place a lien against. You're gonna define that property and the terms of the collection, use, and storage of that property, and then you're gonna have a dispute resolution clause in a provision whereby you have a remedy. You're giving yourself a remedy like the right to foreclose on the property rights. Okay, so we kind of have to coach the AI a little bit on this. Let's see here. So it's going in through. All right, so it's even explaining how benefiting is creating an obligation for the debtor. It's kind of nice. And so what I wanted is, okay, consent by conduct. All right, it's even helping me with all this. So now it's dialing in this in a little bit better. So now it says, would you like me to create a new agreement, a whole complete security agreement? I said, let's see. Oh, it's got the attachments. So I said, not yet. So I told it, this looks good so far, but can you add a binding arbitration clause? Now, this is the key thing, I think, because once we have the terms, I don't want to go to some judge. You see what's happening with these judges? They're such political activists. I don't want to go to some judge and he looks at this and says, "Oh, this guy thinks he's smart. Get out of my court. You're dismissed." I don't want that. I want to uh, memorialize my claim in an award through arbitration, which is outside the court system. And then it reduces the court's authority or jurisdiction to simply reviewing my petition to confirm the award under the criteria of whether or not there's allegations or evidence of fraud or unconscionability, which don't exist here. So I gave the AI this instruction here, and you can have this video, of course, and you can see the language I'm using. You guys can change this how you like. And here we go. So it went ahead and wrote this for me. And yeah, I believe if you use my prompt, you're going to get the same thing. It's got all the nice definitions in here. Let me see if I can. Okay. It's very good. It's very thorough. I like this. I wouldn't give him 7 days to opt out, but although that's kind of nice to put that in there, it makes it more equitable. And then here's your binding arbitration clause, the one I just described to it. Okay, look at all these. It's quite lengthy, all these subsections. And anyways, this is basically a security agreement. It's a pretty good one. So, and then I want to know if I can I need the legal name of the debtor. In this case, it's going to be Flock Safety, which is the DBA. It says doing business as. You see down here, doing business as Flock Safety. It's Flock Group Inc., which is a Georgia company. Okay, so now this is my debtor in my agreement. So if I go back up here, I copy and paste that up here as my debtor, wherever that's identified. It's probably in the bottom. So let's see here. Yeah, here we go. Secured party, that's me. Debtor, that's them. All right. I like to do it in the top, but anyways, this is a pretty good security agreement. So remember, security agreement is just a contract establishing, a claim on some property, which is, I guess, collateral or whatever. And it's recorded. You don't need to record it, but if you don't record it, there's a very good chance it won't be binding on the other party. So in this case, you want to have it recorded. If you have a problem with your county recorders, there's like a half dozen ways to get it recorded. We can talk about that in another call. I don't mind answering some questions on that tonight, but so I asked it, give me the legal name. It gave me all the information. And so it can cross-check to see if it's in Delaware, but I really don't care. As long as I get one state with the principal address, I don't care. It's enough. Okay, because of the way this is written, or it could be written to encumber the collection, use, and storage, and prohibit the dissemination to other parties besides Flock. And when there's a violation, that would be a material violation of this agreement, I would have the AI write in there a liquidated damages clause for $1 million if Flock discloses to third parties, okay? Which is going to. That's the whole point. So you would have this huge amount of money, like 30, 40, $50 million of claims you could make, which might even make its way up to Palantir, the mothership of all the data collection, you know. So anyways, I just want to show you guys that. Any questions on that?
Yeah, John, once you have this, written out and filed and recorded, what are your processes after that? Do you need to notice the company so that they're aware that this
It's notice. When you record it, it's notice. And
this counts?
yeah, and so the license terms are very small, in my opinion, should be very small, like, $12 a month or something. Whatever. But I think the real money, if you really want money out of this, if you really want to change things, is your liquidated damages for the unauthorized disclosure. So what you have to do is, in addition, you're not going to see to this one I just gave you, but you need to put a term in there that says, if Flock, if the debtor discloses this information after acquiring this information, after the date of this recording of my security agreement, okay, after the date of this recording, if Flock discloses this information to third parties without my written consent, now, then it constitutes a material breach of the contract, which is subject to liquidated damages in the amount of $1 million per incident, and then define what an incident equals each disclosure without my written authorization.
That's an incident.
That could be billions of dollars. You could just bankrupt them.
Mm-hmm.
If enough people did this. So it's very powerful. Like before, where I was just talking to you guys, little baby steps about, look, just collect $8 from, Google, $12, whatever. But I'm just thinking, we really need to put some meat on this, okay? And have some liquidated damages in there. Liquidated, because they are gonna violate the agreement. They just definitely will do that. It'll be a material breach from day one. And so you need to collect liquidated damages. Liquidated damages means it's like a speeding ticket. It's like a speeding fine. Okay. They don't calculate how much you owe. They just say, you were speeding, you owe this much.
Can I ask you something too? Just because I've been working on something else and it made me think about this. Notice by posting or by putting on the public record, they could maybe argue that, I've seen just case law on this, and this is why I'm thinking about it, that if there are more effective ways available to notice somebody, like sending it to them directly, that's preferred. And there's case law about that. Do you think?
I think it's a good idea. It's not necessary, but if you record a security agreement against one of these, making this entity the debtor, I would just send a copy of it just out of curiosity to see what it would do. Because it's going to have to go to their attorneys, the general counsel's risk manager or somebody like that. And he's going to have to look at that and go, ooh.
Right.
Ooh.
Hey, John, someone's asking, how would you know if the data has been leaked in order to make the claim, I guess, about the liquidated damages part? How would
it is. Because I'm telling you.
How would it not
be? It is.
Yeah.
It is. When you start researching this, you're going to realize it's always leaked. It's always, the whole purpose is to disclose it to other parties. It's not profitable to keep it.
This whole thing's a big movement. It's cumulative too, because the smart meters are going to put them on your gas, your water. Now, those are all voluntary. People don't understand. I don't have one.
Yeah.
I blocked all that.
Yeah.
But
you can obscure the data on that, but still.
Yeah. So
I tried so hard in New York and I couldn't.
Yeah. It's all, what's going on is everything is being collected ultimately to create the credit score system, like it's in China for here. You're being profiled by your phone, everything. They'll probably eventually want the cameras mandatory in your house.
Yes.
And this whole thing is a credit score system that's building up coming in the future for tyranny. So it's got to be resisted to the maximum extent.
Well, I'm telling you guys, this is a very powerful tool.
Yeah, I love it.
You think that this is nothing. No, this is the leading edge method of dealing with this that you don't like. Use it. Use it, and stop complaining. Be aware of what's going on and don't freak out over it. Just say, okay, you're going to pay me, you're going to pay me, you're going to pay me. You want my data, you're going to pay me. If my bank says you can't access your funds anymore until you give up image of your retina, I'll say, okay, and here's your data security agreement, and here's an image of my retina. Be careful what you ask for. Carol, what do you think?
I think it's a great idea. Thank you for sharing this information with us. My question has to do with when we're traveling and we're coming like foreign travel and we're coming back into the country. So when I've gone through immigration, I'll decline getting my picture taken. And sometimes they're okay with that, but sometimes they're like, well, now you're going to have to go over here and wait 45 minutes. And, they give you a really hard time about it. And so I'm just curious, would it be possible to have, a copy of this agreement when you're coming back into the country? And if they're asking, to take your picture, present them with the agreement.
Well, this is TSA. So what you would do is make TSA and the United States the debtor.
Well, in this case, it's immigration because it's like.
That's the United States.
Sorry?
That's the United States.
Yeah, it's the United States.
Right.
Yeah.
So file one against them. But here's the thing. Here's what you want. You want to be treated equally, right? Forget all this legal stuff. What you do is you say, look, I want to talk to somebody who makes decisions over here, who's accountable. So I don't want to be treated differently. I don't want to be frustrated and put aside and delayed just because you want to persuade me or frustrate me into compliance with whatever everyone else is doing. I don't want you to take my image. So this is not fair to treat me differently because I've elected something else here. This is well beyond what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be protecting people who are traveling. You're not supposed to be coercing me into submitting to something that I don't want to do. So I want to go now. Now. I'm not waiting 45 minutes. That's up to you and how you want to deal with that. You're showing them this thing. I mean, think about it. I'm not trying to belittle these people, but they're not going to understand what you're giving them.
Right.
They don't know the meaning of this.
Oh,
The United States does, and the
Mhm.
U.S. attorney will know, because when you send this to the United States and you file this lien, the U.S. attorney will understand what you're doing.
Well,
Now, just keep in, yeah.
Could I file it prior to traveling so
You
that?
should. Everybody should file against TSA in the United States, day one. Google, TSA, United States, your ISP, AT&T, Apple. Those are the givens for everybody. Absolutely.
Amazon.
DMV. Yeah, Amazon. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Can I
Thanks for
ask
the
a question of
Yeah, yeah.
Ray?
Go ahead.
Ray, you had said that that there's these smart meter things that are governing your water use. They're governing, but spying on your water use and everything. You said that's optional?
Yeah, so when they first started bringing the smart meters out, I went and looked it up in federal law. Now, in federal law, it says it's voluntary. Now, the power companies were coming, and I just happened to be home, luckily, but saying it's mandatory. And I said, hey, let me see what you're talking about. I looked it up. I said, it's not mandatory. It's voluntary, and I don't optioned in. So take it back to your boss. They said, well, I'm calling my boss. I said, tell him to come. I'm waiting. So
Yeah.
then I went down to the city manager. I created an affidavit. I accepted his oath of office, and I put a penalty on it, just like that security agreement for $1 million. And I went down there and had an appointment. I went down and I said, look here, Kenny. I mean, I knew the guy's name. I said, I'm taking your oath. I want your oath of office and bond. I want to see how much you're bonded for, because I'm fixing to get your house you live in the toys you're And that's what I told him. And I said,
You just
so
coerced him.
and I let him read the affidavit, John. So I was quiet. I just looked at him, and he looked up
Right.
at me. I said, do we have a meeting of minds? He went like this. I said, you just put a smart meter on this house.
Right. They have a choice. It's just like with this one
Yeah.
comment here about he's saying you have to pay additional money. Say, no, I'm not paying that. No,
Just say
you're
no.
gonna
See,
you're gonna
it's
pay
how
No,
you
the
carry
I
yourself.
I did
technology.
this in New York. I did all that. I was like, I'm not paying the additional fee. I'm refusing the smart
Right.
meter and blah blah blah. And they were still assholes about
And
it.
it's also okay. It's a violation of
New
your
York.
easement. It's a violation of the
Yeah.
easement because they don't have an easement to put surveillance data and also put technology that's actually dangerous. It could explode.
Right.
But
It's
there's
just
not
supposed to
even-
be the pole. Right.
Yeah.
That's
So
it.
there's other ways to attack this, but people have
You
waited
do
so
it like
long.
Can
Moko,
you
so
review?
they did it to my parents like that, but I went after the Georgia Power. So I went after the CEO. I contacted and went
Yeah.
straight up with certified mail to the CEO and did the same thing to him. They took it
You
off my
guys-
parents'
If
house.
you guys have a question on stuff, you need to ask Ray what he would do. He probably has,
But it's how you carry yourself.
yeah.
And it's kind of like that movie Outlaw Josie Wales. You just got to get mad dog
That's right.
mad. Just don't put
That's
up with
right.
shit.
That's right.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Mhm.
But if you own your own property, you can do that. But if you're like I live in an apartment. I don't own this apartment. I don't own the building.
Well, an easement also is not affected by who the title holder is, like I've been telling you guys for years.
Mhm.
You know, so they'll use so it's about an easement issue, right? So you could say that it's, look, I'm going to give you guys the language. So like for you, Moko, right? And for you, Ray, they come on your property and they're doing these things, whatever these things are. I would argue that it's an encroachment, and you put them on notice and say, you don't have an easement to come on my property and put this technology on my property. Period. I don't need to tell you why. It is an encroachment and it's a trespass for which, and then you go ahead and you can make your claim. That's one way of really attacking them. I'm not going to talk about that too much tonight, but you know, we're just going to, at some point, you know, look at it this way. They'll probably get the data from your neighbor who has a smart meter. You know,
Right, you're just saying we have to push back in a way.
we
in a
should.
reason- we
But
just-
look at it like this.
yeah,
If
have to.
most people do almost the same thing, right? So let's say you figured it out like Ray. Okay, I'm totally, you know, I'm off the grid, right? But then my neighbors are doing stuff, and the data on my house can be extrapolated. It's just like if I'm just completely not using a mobile phone, which is, you know, like that would make me not a human being. I wouldn't even exist, right? I mean, so, but let's say I don't use a cell phone. Well, my wife has one and my neighbor has one. And so my activities and whatever else in communications or whatever could be, you know, get obtained. So you're not going to escape it. But yeah, we should fight back at every level. And this is a way to do it on the easements. We could talk about that too. But I mean, it's an easement issue on the smart meters.
So that applies even if I don't understand how it applies if you're living in an apartment and you don't own the property. I didn't catch that.
Well, you have an interest. Okay, look at it this way. So the tenant has the same rights as the owner, except he doesn't have the right to sell the property. You don't have the right to dispose of the property. However, you have the same right of enjoyment as the owner. And if your right of enjoyment is impeded or intruded upon, then it's a violation of the easement. You have a claim. You have standing, in other words, as a tenant. That's what I would argue. I mean, they might come up with something.
Even if the owner of the building has allowed all of these smart meters, which of course they have, all over New York City.
Well, let me just share something with you. I can tell you this. In Florida, under the residential tenant lease, you know, lease act, in chapter 83.47, you cannot be required to agree to terms that would waive fundamental rights. And so what is a fundamental right?
Privacy.
There you go. So you can't be required to waive fundamental rights. So I know this will be the case in every state. So you guys have to find that provision. So that, again, you find that statute, you got your lease agreement. Now you've got a claim there, and you've got a claim regarding the easement because you have standing under the easement claim. You have standing because you're a tenant. You have a lease agreement. You have two claims. One is violation of your lease agreement. Your lease agreement is void as to the smart meter because it violates a fundamental right. The use of it violates a fundamental right.
Yeah, I created a laminated sign, hung it on the meter. I have an analog meter. And I said, and that's exactly right. That says, I do not install a smart meter due to privacy and health violations.
Perfect. Yeah.
And that's it. Because you have rights that pre-exist the apartment complex or whatever policy.
I think we're going to be, you know, I hate to be a pessimist, but I think that what we're talking about now is small nothingness, because I think that whatever's coming is going to leapfrog over all the other garbage we're talking about. It's going to be so outrageous that we're going to forget about smart meters. It's going to be something else, like, for example,
it's all cumulative though. So in Georgia here, listen, so this is what's going on. We have a lot of water here, just like Florida, but it's not as populated. These data centers are being put up everywhere. The people in the counties are bowing up. The data centers are AI. They're AI data centers for tracking us. This whole thing is exploding in many counties.
And they use tons of electricity and they suck up the water. So guess who's not going to get electricity when they want it and water when they want it?
Right.
But that's the thing, it's that social credit system. It's everything is moving towards it. And so then you can't access your bank account. You can't go to the grocery store. You're not a good boy. You know, you can't leave your town.
Yeah,
And
that
so,
we know it's coming. So that's why I'm
yeah,
sharing this with you guys. It's just my take on this. I mean, we could talk about easements too, but I like to stay out of court, and I think this is a way to do it. I think it's a very quick way to make a claim on your property and not get someone's permission. Karen, did you have a question, Karen?
I was just curious. I heard the question about if you're a renter, how you keep the smart meters off. What if somebody is moving into a new rental and it already has a smart meter? Is there a way, do you think, to fight that fairly easily?
I think you have standing because of an easement and also a fundamental right that's being denied. I think you have standing, but you're going to have to bring it to court. So
Oh.
then the first question would be like in your lease agreement, you probably have a mediation clause, so you got to get through that. But that might be what may come up in a motion to dismiss is why did you knowing this, and even if you didn't know, you had a duty to know of the condition, and then proceed to rent the property. The response to that is I don't have a choice because anywhere I go, it's going to be like that. But that doesn't mean I waive my rights because everyone is requiring me to waive my rights. It just means I picked this house and I still have a right and expect that I have a right to privacy. And this violates it. And I can't be required to waive a fundamental right just to live in society. That I think you would defeat a motion to dismiss and have your claim heard. And I think you would have standing. But it's, for those people that want to take that on, it's, it's a project.
Someone is asking, what if you get your services under an LLC and it's not in your name? So then would you have to have an attorney represent you?
What do you mean? Oh, the account? The
Well,
account?
it looks like this person is saying that that their water bill,
Okay.
their electric bill is
That's
coming to the house and
who
it's
would do, you don't need
the
to do that.
LLC is paying.
Yeah. Why would you do that? Have a utility account and an LLC. I mean, you shouldn't do that in the first place. But yeah, I mean, if the account holder is an LLC, yeah, you're going to make it more difficult for yourself. Just put in your name.
Do you suppose that they got the LLC to pay the utilities so that it was the LLC
It
paying the
doesn't matter if
bills?
the LLC is paying the utilities. What matters is who the account holder is. Yeah. Why would you put it in an LLC's name or a trust name or something? There are reasons to put it in the name of a trust, by the way, for privacy, data privacy, ironically. But why make it more complicated for yourself? Yeah. Sometimes you want things in your name, so.
I mean, the first thing you can do is opt out. I mean, it's a minimum, just opt out. It's $30 or something like that a month. And then go after them. Just get it off the house.
What we should do is dispute it. Now, the utility companies have a very elaborate, like, jurisdictional requirement. In fact, it's like their own country. If you go look at your dispute resolution clause for your utility companies, you're going to see it's like its own court system. So, yeah. And then some of these, like we've seen before, that's why I have an arbitration clause in there. And if you carry it out correctly, you frame the case correctly. So when you apply to the court for confirmation, if they want to screw with the proceeding in some way, you just have the appeals court uphold it because they're not going to get around the fact that your arbitration is going to be absent any element of fraud and absent any element of unconscionability. They're not going to meet that standard. It's like indicting somebody for murder. That's a really hard case to prove, in many cases. So.
Right. And even though the first court is saying that the arbitration award is not good.
And that was and what Ann's talking about here is that problem resulted from a technical problem with a video appearance of one of the parties, and the court took advantage of that and shut them down. So it's not a real proceeding, but still.
Yeah, there are a lot of little facts that made
frame
this
it
very difficult.
We frame it correctly and go to the appeals court. So yeah. So I don't know about a personal security agreement, but you want a security agreement for your data. So I'm just saying this I think is a remedy. It's a countermeasure. It's not counter surveillance, but it's a countermeasure for what's going on. And I think it does cover pretty much everything. I mean, you could put it against the IRS, the DMV. I don't think those are your problems. I think your problems are the data people. I think it's the ISPs. I think it's Flock. I think it's your retailers. Imagine if Home Depot had like 27 people, just 27 people in one town that put liens on Home Depot. What's going to happen to that franchise?
They would change their policies.
I think they would change the
more
policy.
customer centric. Yes.
I can tell you during the fake pandemic, when we sued a company, we're not going to get the judge to say, uh-huh, makes sense to me. But what happens is, because they don't want this in the courts, they don't want the chance of them getting ruining their mask wearing cult practices. So the company we're suing, the retailer, would change its policies and then tell the court that its policies were changed, and therefore the plaintiff no longer has standing to sue. And then if you look at the complaint, it says in there, we wanted the policy to change. That was the remedy. But then the court dismisses the case as if we lost.
Mhm.
So, this is what can happen. It was fake, Tommy. Don't tell me that COVID was real. It's fake, fake, fake. There was no disease, and those viruses are not contagious pathogens. Don't even get me going on that one, man. I will fight you. It's all totally fake, and anybody who thinks COVID is real is retarded. Okay? Absolutely retarded. There's no such thing as COVID. Ugh. My wife went to she didn't want to confer with me. She just thought, I'm going to do it myself. I'm busy doing something. She goes to the doctor for something, and it was completely unrelated to anything plausible. And the dumbass doctor, within 20 minutes, because when she went there, she finished visiting with the doctor. She called me and says, hey, I'm at the doctor. I said, what are you doing? I went over there. The dumbass doctor was talking to her, and I said, what did you do? And the doctor starts talking about this elaborate bullshit. And I said, I understand what you're talking about. I'm not a baby. What did you conclude after examining my wife for 20 minutes? She said, I had to diagnose her with COVID. And I said, you're a quack. And I'm reporting you to the Board of Medical Examiners in the Department of Health, which I did. And it turns out that when I go look at her profile, she did that to someone else. And so this idiot thinks everybody that comes in there now has COVID. This is a cult. Stupid, stupid people. So I reported her. I hope she loses her license. It takes me a lot to do that, because I don't want to waste my time with those things. Like every day I see some crap and I'm like, I'm not going to waste my time with it. But this one, I waste my time with it.
Yeah, it's medical quackery is what it was. I mean,
It is
it's terrible.
quackery. It is absolute quackery.
It's a mental. People don't understand it. If you believe it, it is so, and it's a mental mind game to get you to believe.
Yeah.
The PCR tests are 99% wrong. I mean, they tested oil and
There's no
avocados
virus
with COVID.
because there's no assay from which to compare. And that was the complaint I made against this physician. I said, first of all, you can't diagnose a deadly disease in 20 minutes and then have the discussion about the disease in the waiting room, in the lobby, in front of other patients, and then let her walk out without reporting her to the Department of Health. And I told this doctor, I said, let me see what she signed, because my wife can't understand the contract, right? So I said, how did you get her consent when she can't understand this contract?
Mm.
She understood that. I said, give me the contract. And before she wouldn't give it to me, she stood there and she tore it up. And I said, well, good, because I was going to tear it up. But you know what? You just destroyed medical records that you should report to the Department of Health, because you just diagnosed someone with a deadly disease, deadly contagious disease, and you're going to let her walk out of here, and you don't have any information now that you can report her with. Which if she did, I would just take the house down then. But I'm just saying, this is the kind of thing we're dealing with still. These idiots think that imposing a medical treatment on somebody else is going to cure another person. So I don't want to get too far off into that.
Yeah.
But anyways. But yeah, so I hope this helps. And
yeah, I really like you taking
here.
us through your prompts. That's really,
Yeah.
really cool of you to like follow your thinking, see how you get the results, and see how you can craft it.
I'm gonna have more of this with my paid subscriptions, but I do like talking about this stuff, on these calls. And I will I'll publish this one on YouTube. It'll be on Brighteon. It'll be on whatever, BitChute and Rumble and whoever else I can get it on. So.
Can I just ask you? Someone was asking about last week's, and I remember you said that would be available with an email and a subject line. Do you want to repeat that, or do you want?
What I was saying for last week's is that whoever was on the call last week, if you just ask me for that recording, I'll just send it to you.
Okay.
Which was the October 9th.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just put that in the subject line. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right, I'm glad y'all enjoyed that. I hope it was helpful. And please try these prompts. And you got yourself a letter there. And I wouldn't mind on a call like this, we can even go over some of these things, because there are a few things in that letter and that, I'm sorry, the security agreement that we just did. There are some things that I would add in there. So
This is
I did
great.
file that one. I filed one on Google. I don't know how many people are, because you've
Yeah.
talked about this for quite some
Yeah.
time. But I did file it, and of course,
Good.
I've never heard nothing, but
Yeah.
I never
John,
pursued
you-
it.
your things at Chat GPT 5, is that like the
Yeah.
that's the fifth
I
generation?
I guess so. I subscribe to it, so it must give me updates whenever there are updates. I
Oh,
pay
okay.
$20 a month, so.
Mhm.
But I
Okay.
think almost most AI is going to do it if you give it
Yeah.
the background and you lead it into the discussion, right? If I just asked it, hey, can you write me a security agreement for my private data? You would get a mess,
get nothing.
It would,
Yeah.
you have to kind of lead it through and then get it to tag along with all the different references and then educate itself, and then you get your thing you want.
Yeah, it's a language accumulator. It's not a brain. It's a language accumulator or
All
something
right,
like
and
that.
Freedom wants my email. So look, guys, here's my email. singletonpress@protonmail.com. Now, also get me on Telegram, which a lot of you know because that's why you're here. But and on Telegram. So, all right, thanks everyone. Appreciate
Thank
it. And,
you.
enjoy your
Good call.
weekend.
Enjoyed it.
All right.
Thank you so
All right.
much.
Make some of those agreements. Really, really, really do it. You guys should do like 20 of them this year at least. Come on.
Live free or die.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks,
Good night, y'all.
everyone.
Take care.
Bye.